Hello and welcome to the New Normal with Steve Benaquist. I'm New Normal and this is the Steve Benaquist. Well, thank you for your concern after last episode. Everything's pretty much okay again, although if anyone knows a good chiropractor to recommend, hey, leave it in a comment or slide into my DMs, as they say. This is episode 99. Woohoo! We're going to get triple digits pretty soon. And that'll be Wednesday. That'll be Inauguration Day of Little Joey Biden. You may notice we're in a new locale. We're in the New Normal Lounge, I'll call it. And we're very happy to be here. It's very comfy. We've got the New Normal written on the chalkboard wall. And the name of a play that I wrote and put on a couple years ago in the back.
Hey, Steve.
Hello, it's Lyle Gerber, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Executive producer.
Yeah.
And I imagine it's a little early for you to be doing the
Well,
ad,
I know you're doing a kind of serious Martin Luther King Day show.
And
so,
we don't do
this is
commercial sponsors on the show, but as a favor to Lyle, I'm letting him plug his friend's Waba Grill restaurant.
No, Steve, we're doing the new thing.
Oh, that's right.
No, remember?
Yes, we're doing the anti-ad. It's a brand new feature of the New Normal. We only take donations, so no one's buttering our biscuit.
I mean, if you want to butter it,
free to do an anti-ad. We can give you a little time that gives us no money at all, against something we don't like. Lyle?
Do not buy my pillows. Mike Lindell has personally urged Trump to insurrection by declaring martial law, so don't buy my pillows. That's 1-800-DON'T-BUY-MY-PILLOWS or 1-800-FUCK-Mike Lindell.
That's right. In fact, I don't use my pillow. I only use your pillow. I go around stealing pillows, and once I realize or identify it as my pillow, I have to throw it away and go steal a new one. It's a little complicated, but that's how I roll. So, moving on to the meat of this episode, and that is this holiday that we're all celebrating. My cousin Lily's birthday. Happy birthday, cuz. Actually, it is probably more common that you would be celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. birthday today. Or if you're in New Hampshire, you got to tag End Civil Rights Day onto that. That's my home state. They were the second to last state. Arizona happily made us seem a little less racist by dragging their feet a couple more years and inspiring the great Public Enemy song By the Time I Get to Arizona. But now Arizona flipped blue, so I kind of like Arizona. I'm all right with it. Plus my aunt lives there. It's shout outs to Steve's family all show long. But yeah, it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and I noticed that I have Too Many Hitlers, the name of my play, on the wall there. And it's a play set in Hitler's bunker at the end of the war. It's filled with a bunch of decoys, body doubles for Der Fuhrer. And it's a farcical, Marx Brothers-ish weird play. But it does make me think, why is it that only bad people have body doubles to draw fire away and get murdered instead of the actual person, like your Stalin, like your Hitler, like your Saddam Hussein, like your Melania, and not people like MLK? You know, I mean, not that I would want some other guy to have died, but, let's say he was a really bad person. That I can imagine. Anyway, it's interesting to think about what was going on with Martin Luther King in his life and where he was. He's remembered as a saint. He was shot and killed in April of 1968. He's remembered rightly for all the great things he did. But in the last few years, after the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act were passed in 64 and 65, he basically felt that he had achieved, in terms of the law, the most concrete gains he could, with the tools he had for civil rights. And he moved on to other issues, which are also civil rights, but not specific, not letter specific to the black community. He moved on to fighting against Vietnam War and calling it out for being unjust, couple of years before it was popular to do so. The tide turned in '68, right around the time he passed away. But the prevailing opinion was that it was still a patriotic duty, and America doesn't pull out of wars, and America doesn't do unjust wars. How dare we question it? And the other was poverty. He saw that as a great injustice and something that had to be cured. And of course, in still a deeply Cold War world and a Cold War America, once you start having a war on poverty, the questions, was he saying there's a problem with capitalism? So, yeah, he was upsetting conservatives and right wingers, and he had already upset the racial apple cart and really the white dominated order of things on the left. These laws had met with some resistance from angry whites. There's the difficulty of enforcing them, and hostility was still there. And the idea of pacifism being the restraint on justifiably angry black people who were just demanding their rights pissed off a lot of progressive left, supporters of SNCC, Kwame Ture, then known as Stokely Carmichael, whom I had the amazing pleasure and great honor of meeting about 1990 when I was a teenager, and Malcolm X, of course. Even the fact that King was Christian, he had the white man's religion. That came along with slavery as a bundle package. That's how a lot of people saw it at the time, and they were going to Islam, which ironically was spread at the point of a sword back in 680 Common Era. I didn't say AD, because I'm a good boy. So anyway, he saw the connection between war and poverty, the war and poverty. If you're poor, you can't get a doctor to write you a bone spur note. You can't go to college and stay out of it that way. It's much easier to be drafted and much harder to avoid it if you're poor. And black soldiers made up a higher percentage of armed forces and an even higher percentage of deaths, which has been talked about elsewhere. And it's interesting because he had this reach that he was trying to use. White people were aware of him and listening to him also. And even though there were more black soldiers dying, there were a ton of poor white people dying too. They would have benefited from this message of his. And a war against poverty, yes, would help black people at a greater proportion because they've been unjustly made to be poor over the centuries, but it certainly would have helped a lot of everybody else too. And but he was not appealing. He was seen as kind of a sellout, or at least a quaint relic at the age of 38 by some young folks. To a lot of people on the left and right, King was a civil rights leader, and they didn't want to hear him talk about other issues. They wanted him to stay in his lane. And it left him stranded in a no man's land, too far left for conservatives, supporting the war and hating taxes needed to help the poor, and too conservative with his white man's religion and refusal to condone violence in response to violence. And in a way, I think Joe Biden finds himself in a similar situation as he prepares to be sworn in. I'm not comparing them directly as people at all, but I'm saying they're too left for the right, they're too right for the left, and they occupy a space in the middle that no one wants to be. It angers everyone and most people are on the sides. Very few people are in the middle. Right now, this country is as polarized as we've ever been, and that includes our representatives in government. In every question, taxation, immigration, ecology, has only one answer for each side, and that answer is mutually exclusive and diametrically opposed to the answer on the other side. And as awful as our divide it was in the 60s, they didn't have Fox News. And I'm not being flip, but that's a. They were lucky to have the three stations. Yes, there were right wing radio shows and right wing newspapers, but television pretty much wasn't. It was centrist. They didn't have a lot of opinion shows. There wasn't a 24-hour news cycle. Um, let's put it this way: even white supremacists back then knew that the world was round. So, just as King knew he had lethal enemies and he predicted that he didn't have long to achieve his goals, so he had to get to these major things that he felt had to be addressed, Joe Biden knows from being right there in the White House how quickly a president's term goes by. And it matters whether you have support in Congress. Right now, he has the barest of majorities. If anyone between now and 2022, he may not even have a 2-year window. If one scandal, one retirement, one death happens among those 50 Democrats, and there's some elderly ones, nothing can get done. He's sunk. And on top of that, he doesn't have a loyal opposition. He has a GOP who are not founded in reality anymore. Their only purpose is to maintain power. They have no platform, which is one of the main definitions of, main features of fascism. Much as people don't want to use that word, I think everyone's getting a little more comfortable with it after January 6th. But I guarantee you, in 1968, MLK didn't appeal to young progressives, neither does Biden. Although I think things are so dire now that he could be the next FDR. I mean, I think we need to take 1930s type steps to keep from drowning. And from the right, they had no use for King, just utter hatred and disdain. Same for Biden. And I guarantee you that everyone will be pissed off by something about how he saves us and rights the ship, let alone if he forges across the ocean, metaphorically speaking, if he even can do it. Let's not throw him away and let this time end in more tragedy, only to fully realize what we lost when it's gone, like we did with Martin Luther King. I don't know. I know it's not an exact comparison, but it's. I think it's worth considering. Anyway, send me your thoughts. Text me. You don't have my number. Tweet me. Write me on Facebook. Make a comment on this YouTube video. I want to interact. Send me a real letter. I'll read it. That I'm not giving out my address, but if you an email. Anyway, if you like it, subscribe, come on, follow, donate in any amount. You'll be entered in the raffle for a new normal t-shirt. Only got 2 more days for that. And other than that, I'll see you on Inauguration Day. Till then, I'm Steve Benaquist reminding you that if it ain't new, it ain't normal.